Today, we're going to be talking about moving to Mazatlan, Mexico. I'm Risa Morimoto, your host. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach, and you're watching Modern Aging, where we chat about innovative and holistic ways to elevate our health and well-being as we age. If you are new to the channel, I'd love for you to subscribe. All you got to do is click on that little red button below with that little bell next to it to be sure to be notified whenever a new episode is uploaded. Check out our website at thisismodernaging.com. We got new articles and videos and podcasts uploaded every single week. So today my guest is author and journalist Janet Blaser. Janet actually moved to Mazatlan from California almost 15 years ago or so. She was 50 and single. She talks about what it took for her to move. She talks about the cost of living down there, the challenges that she had and has, what inspires her, and what brings her joy every single day. If you are interested in moving or retiring to Mexico, I invite you to join our free webinar we're hosting on December 9th, 12th, and 15th. It's called Dream Retirement in Mexico. My co-hosts are real estate agent Daniel Chemsian and healthcare specialist Pamela Thompson. We're going to be talking about how to choose what place to live in Mexico depending on your lifestyle preferences, how to buy or rent property in Mexico, as well as healthcare options for foreigners. So you're definitely going to want to check that out. You got to go to dreamretirementinmexico.com/webinar. And those dates are December 9th, 12th, and 15th. You just pick the date and time that works best for you. But in the meantime, check out my conversation with Janet. So we're going to talk about all things Mexico. You have been there for 15 years?
It's really 14. I left for a year during COVID. So it's been my home for 15 years, but I was gone for a year.
I see. Okay. So why don't we go back from the beginning? What was your inspiration for actually even moving to Mexico? And what did it take to make it happen? And where did you actually move to?
Okay. I was living in Santa Cruz, California, which is a beautiful place on the coast in California, but it's very expensive. And I was working as a journalist for a daily paper, and the internet happened. And when that happened, um, you know, uh, publishing really suffered. And so I was watching because I knew my job was kind of on the line, and I was trying to figure out what to do. I was 50 at that point, and I was sending out resumes and getting no responses and trying not to freak out and figuring I had to think outside the box, but not knowing what that meant. So I had a vacation I had scheduled a year in advance to go to Mazatlan, Mexico, where I'd never been. And when I got down here, I just fell in love with it. That was two things happened. I fell in love with the city and the vibe. At the risk of sounding like a hippie, there was just this relaxed vibe that there really was. And also, I saw the opportunity to start a business. At that point, there were multiple cruise ships coming every day. So there were thousands of foreigners wandering through the town, and there was a big timeshare and condos and all these things have. So there were all these people who didn't speak Spanish. And one of the things that Mazatlan is known for, it's a city that has a big cultural calendar all year long. There's all kinds of cultural events. There's a big theater, a 1,200 seat theater that's kind of like Carnegie Hall, and music and dance come from all over the world. And so there was all these things going on, and all these foreigners here who didn't know that. They didn't know that that was happening. And I thought, ding, I can do this. I know how to publish a publication. I know how to attract an audience. I know how to share information. So that was my initial impetus. I love being here, and I saw a way to make money to support myself.
So you were single at the time, and you
Yes.
have
Yeah.
children. You have 3 children, 2 children?
Yeah, I have 3 kids, and I was a single mom since they were little. And at that point, the youngest one was 18 or 19, and the others were in their 20s. So they were pretty settled, or so I thought. But no, they were they were pretty settled.
Great. So it was actually great timing then to kind of make a move somewhere. Did you realize that you were going to have to move somewhere? Um,
No. I was at one point I had thought about moving inland in California to Sacramento or Modesto, and I went and explored there, and it was not my place. It was not where I wanted to be. I didn't know what to do, really. I was just kind of at the end of my story. I mean, I still had work, but it was like there was writing on the wall, and I was like, okay, I need to be prepared. What am I going to do next? And I couldn't see that. Like I said, I sent out resumes and got nothing. And also at that time, besides when the internet happened, which sounds so odd, right? To think of a time before the internet, but that
I
was,
know.
yeah. When how old am I? When
I'm right with
so
you.
when social media was starting, right? So any publication online or in print, they wanted younger people who understood social media, and I had no clue. I was kind of an old bricks and mortar kind of journalist, so it was just not my thing anymore, not my place anymore.
So tell me about Mazatlan. Um, where is it geographically in Mexico? And how would you describe it, aside
Mazatlan
from
is
it being a very cultural city?
yeah, it's uh, it's like opposite the tip of Baja, if you can imagine that, on the Pacific coast. So it's about halfway down, the country on the Pacific coast. It's a mid-sized city. I want to say it's 650, 700,000 people. And kind of what sets it apart from other more popular and more known cities and towns in Mexico, like Puerto Vallarta or Cancun or Cabo, is that tourism is not its only or its main industry. Mazatlan for uh, I want to say 100 years has been a shrimping port. It's a port city. It's on the coast, so it's been a shrimping port. It's one of the biggest shrimp ports in the world. There's a big tuna industry also. So it's not just geared around tourism. So it's a little bit more quaint, I want to say. It's not like Vegas on the beach.
And do you have swimming there? Are there beautiful beaches, or is it mainly ports and boats and that sort of thing?
No, luckily, that's a really good question actually, because I looked at other cities that were like that. It was like big ports. No, the docks are all over on one side of town, and the beautiful beaches are on the other side of town. So that's a lovely thing. There's about, I want to say about 10 miles, maybe 12 miles of coastline. And maybe half of that has we call it a malecon, like a boardwalk. It's a big wide sidewalk that goes along it, and there's statues and benches to sit and plazas and stuff. Um, jogging or biking, running or things that people do here. And there's a few marathons every year. Again, international marathons where runners come from Kenya and other places, and they run all along the ocean there. So
Wow.
there's a lot of annual events. It's the third biggest carnival in the world, and that's a week of, you can either call it festivities or mayhem, depending on. So there's fireworks and there's music every night from about 4 in the afternoon till 2 in the morning. They close off a section of that oceanfront boardwalk. Um, and there's fireworks and all this stuff, and parades and all this stuff. So what did I like about it? So what attracted me was that the ocean was swimmable. It wasn't wild currents, right? There's a colonial section here, Centro Histórico. So you have the cobblestone streets and the beautiful colonial buildings, right? Um, why else did I come? Oh, it's close to the States. It's about 2 hours and 15 minutes to fly to Arizona, to the border of LA, right? And so then you go off from there to wherever you need to go. So I do have 3 kids, and now I have 3 grandchildren, and I didn't want to be, really far away from them. So that was convenient for that. And there is a very welcoming expat community. So I had been studying Spanish before I came, not because I was going to move here, just randomly because I was in California, and so I thought, well, let me study Spanish. But because there's such a big foreign community, and because Mazatlan has such a long history of immigrants, not necessarily tourists, but immigrants, you don't have to speak Spanish. You can get by with a little bit of Spanish and speaking English.
Well, let's talk affordability because it seems to be much more affordable than, say a Puerto Vallarta or a Cabo or I mean, it's kind of ridiculous because I know how much you spend on your first apartment. So maybe you can talk about your first apartment and how much you spend now on your apartment now.
Okay, all right, and that's something that people ask all the time, because it's partly I guess my lifestyle, because there's been videos and things done, but it's also because basically the cost of living in Mexico is so much lower than in the US. The basic things you need to live are just so much lower in Mexico, and it's kind of unbelievable. That said, you can spend, I live very humbly, but you can buy a condo for $500,000 or $1 million if you want, and live like that, right? But you don't have to. There's options. So um, until this apartment that I have now, which I rented in March of this year, this year, is it 2021? Yeah. I always spent, my apartments cost $200, about $200 a month. That's what I always spend. And
For what size? Is that like a
um,
one bedroom, a two
one
bedroom?
bedroom. Yeah, I'm not good with the square footage thing, but one bedroom. I only know what this one is because a friend told me. Um, and that price is because in most places in Mexico, like many places in Europe, when you rent something, it's unfurnished, and that means there's no appliances also. So, I've always had to buy a stove, a fridge, air conditioners, ceiling fans, things like that. But after being here for such a long time, I did it slowly. Slowly, I bought these, or I upgraded and got a better refrigerator, or whatever. So,
So when you move out, do you take those
oh
appliances with
yeah,
you then?
yeah. Either you take them with you, or depending on where you're going, maybe you want to sell them to the next person who's moving in, right?
Right.
So, like for instance, the apartment I have now, the it's so strange. The door, it's an old building, and the doors to the kitchen are about 3 inches smaller in width than every other door. So I had to get a refrigerator and stove that would fit through that door. So would I rather have a bigger refrigerator? Of course, but I can't get it in. So, when or if I move from here, I would probably sell that fridge and buy something bigger. Right? So in the past, I always paid about $200 plus utilities, and the utilities also are really inexpensive to the point that people sometimes accuse me of lying. They don't believe it. So I show my bills, right? I just got my electric bill yesterday for the month, and it was 420 pesos, which is about $21.
Why so low? I mean, electricity is supposed to be actually kind of expensive in Mexico, I thought.
Oh, I don't know. See, now I thought that was higher than it had been in the summer, because in the summer the state of Sinaloa, the government subsidizes all the bills because it's so hot and people use their air conditioners. So this was about 100 pesos, which is only $5 more than it's been the past 3 months. So when I got that bill, I was like, oh, the subsidy ended. It's more than normal. Um,
Wow.
and
Talk
again,
about perspective.
yes, it is. Again, I live in it. I live very simply. I mean, I have a big apartment and I'm comfortable. But for instance, I have a friend that has a big house, maybe 4 blocks away, and she's got 18-foot ceilings. It's an old house that she restored. So 18-foot ceilings, and she's got air conditioners, and she also has a pool. So for her to cool her home and keep that pool running, it costs her probably 3 times as much. My electric bill will be 400 pesos. My electric will be $20. Hers will be 65 or 70. But you can
But
see,
still, that's still very inexpensive
is
from
it?
my
See, I don't
perspective.
know.
I know. I mean, in New York, if you get a bill for $120 a month, like that's really cheap. So,
Oh, okay. So I
yeah.
some prices I just don't remember anymore. So I don't know. My perspective is so much down here. The
Do you pay
water,
for gas also?
yeah, water. I pay water for the house, and that's about 80 pesos. That's about $4 a month. It's city water that comes. And then I have gas for cooking and hot water, and maybe that's $5 a month. I don't know. I mean, the tank lasted me 7 months, so yeah, it's not very much. It's just much more inexpensive to live here. And another example of that is medical care, dental care, prescriptions. People are medical tourism, because Mexico is such a big thing, or dental tourism, because it's modern, it's professional, it's safe, and it's so much cheaper. So I sometimes it's not irritating. It's like I don't understand why things cost so much more in the States, you know?
Yeah.
Some of it I do understand. Like here's the thing. So the trash pickup is free. The city picks up trash 3 times a week, so that's free. So that's great. But there's no recycling. Okay, so like when I was in Santa Cruz, there was a pretty big cost, as I recall, every month that was for recycling, for them to recycle. So to me, that's a worthwhile thing. You know, I would be happy to pay for that if that could happen, but that's not happening here.
Right. So let's go back to renting an apartment. So what kind of documents did you have to present? I hear that you're supposed to have a sponsor to guarantee the apartment. Do you? No.
Who told you that? No. And again, I live here, and maybe that's the way it is in Mexico City or Puerto Vallarta, or you know, I don't know. It can be very different in different cities. So here, well, they ask for the landlords often ask for a reference, a local reference, you know, but that can just be a friend or someone you know. It's not like they call and check. Or I've never had that experience where they call and check. So do I need any documents? No, we have a lease for a year, you know, that was all in Spanish. So I translated it with a translator program to be sure I understood it. And it's kind of a standard lease. Um,
Did you have to
and
pay 1 month deposit and 1 month security?
yeah, I paid a month security and then the first month's rent, and that's it. Yeah, maybe the only difference a big difference with a lease here is that often you're responsible for more structural maintenance than you would in the US. So for instance, if I have a plumbing problem with the kitchen sink, that's on me to take care of. The landlord's not going to fix that. If it was something really, you know, pipes in the wall or something like, you know, extensive, yeah, he would. But if it's just some simple thing, then it's up to me to do it. I've always
That's
been
actually
fortunate.
similar in some other countries too.
Is it okay? I've always been fortunate in rentals of finding really good places with really nice landlords. You know, my friends always say that to me. They're like, "You find the best places." You know, so.
And how much do you pay for your current apartment then?
Now I pay the equivalent of about $425, 8,500 pesos, and it is a really big, spacious, about 1,600 square feet. Um, And
Wow.
if you Google my name on CNBC, there's a video tour of the apartment. It's like barely half a block from the beach, 124 steps to be exact. Um, it,
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna put that. That's how I found you, was through that video, and
oh,
I'll
was there
put that
that
link
video? Okay, yeah.
down there and down in the description section. But
And
yeah,
I mentioned that not to toot my own horn or anything, but because there's a lot of information in it, and you can actually see, okay, here's a pretty typical rental here, and here's the kind of furniture you can find. And yes, you can get a regular stove and a regular refrigerator and regular furniture. So sometimes I find with I get messages from readers and viewers, and one of the things they can't kind of wrap their heads around is that you can have kind of a normal life here. They think it's so different. And so I really try to say, no, you can live just like you are up there, just cheaper. You know, there's a few differences. You can't read the cereal box maybe, but but your basic life will be the same, you know.
and well, actually, you're likely to have a higher quality of life,
I think so. Yeah, I think it's easier.
and you're not
There's less
stressed all
stress.
the time.
Yeah, you're not going to worry about money so much. The government the Mexican government is very welcoming to foreigners. You know, there's a process to get a permanent visa or a temporary visa that's very easy. And I think it's less complicated than what people have to go through in the States to stay there. You
Yeah.
know, so
Oh, 100%.
I know. So
Um, so can you talk to me a little bit about being a single woman? Safety is an issue, of course, that always comes up when Mexico is, referenced. And so from your experience living as a single woman in Mazatlan, what has that been like? And
that's a really good question, Risa, because I never think about that because it is such a non-issue, and but people do ask it all the time, and I'll start by saying, just as I would if I lived in any other big city, it's a big city. I don't walk by myself at 10 o'clock at night, even though I live in a safe area. I'm just, I'm not going to do it. I'm aware of my surroundings or anything like that, right? Um, I I don't know how to say this delicately. I think sometimes that Americans exaggerate their importance. Oh, we have a visitor. Sorry. There's Luna. Sorry.
Hi.
She's like, what's happening? um, I think that Americans sometimes exaggerate their importance. And I mean, unless you're somebody famous and rich and I don't know, really out there, nobody's going to pay attention to you. I mean, you're not going to be kidnapped because you have blonde hair and blue eyes. I actually had someone write to me and say that. I don't. She was like all worried. She's like, maybe you're safe there, but how would I? Because I have blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm like, so I think that what. Oops. Sorry. What
That's okay. He can be part of the interview. That's fine.
I think that again, it goes back to what I said before about being able to live normally here. The U.S. media, they really, I don't want to say promote, but it's almost like they're happy when something horrible happens in Mexico. There's some tragedy, there's some crisis, there's something horrible that happens, and they have news for the day, right? But you see those stories, and then the other side of it is that millions and millions of people are living a normal life with none of that affecting them. They're just going about their business. Those things are the exceptions. They're not, we're not all living in fear down here. And I don't mean just expats, I mean the regular people. Yes, there's certain areas of the country where there's like kind of rival cartels fighting each other and it's dangerous there. But it's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black. When I go to the States to visit my um, kids or my grandkids, I'm scared. I'm nervous to take my granddaughter to Starbucks to have a treat because what will I do if there's an active shooter? I mean, that's a
Right.
horrible phrase. She's 7, she's in 2nd grade. She has active shooter drills in her school. That's just a
Yeah.
horrible thing. That doesn't happen here. It
Right.
just
Well,
doesn't
it doesn't
happen.
happen anywhere.
No, it doesn't happen anywhere. And Americans seem to be, I don't know what they are, like they're myopic, they have blinders on. I mean, and sometimes I suggest to people that write to me, I say, go look at any European countries' travel advisories and see what they say about traveling to the US. It's not a safe place. So, what do I do as a single woman? I don't walk late at night. I'm aware of my surroundings. I'm not a flashy person, and nothing has ever happened to me. I mean, it could. I mean, I have friends who've had, like purse snatchings, on the street, but that doesn't happen to me. So I feel fine. I feel safe in my home. I don't know what else to say.
No, that's great. I think just to ease people's fears about, yeah, people's imaginations can get carried away with them sometimes, and
And the
with
media
anything,
doesn't help.
right?
And
Yeah,
I encourage people to do their own research and to look outside the mainstream U.S. media and the kind of what do you want to call it? Like, I mean, Mexico has its media that just exaggerates everything, and so you just need to do your own research. And one of the things I tell people to do, I really suggest this strongly, is that there are many expat Facebook pages for any town, any city in Mexico you might be interested in living in or being a snowbird in for a few months a year. You search on Facebook, expats Puerto Vallarta, expats Puebla, expats Guadalajara. And as soon as you start doing that, Facebook will send you even more. So, and join those, and then you can read from people who are living there, or you can ask your questions, and you get real time on the ground information, right? So that's a good
that's
good
great.
resource.
That's
Yeah,
super helpful
yeah,
because I do think things change and that sort of thing. So,
yes.
what would you say are some of the challenges of living there as a foreigner? And
Okay.
then some of the things that that have inspired you and changed you in a better way. being a foreigner in Mexico?
Okay, challenges. Some of the challenges are not just because I'm a foreigner; they're just from living here. Because there's things are done differently. Like here's an example that's relevant for today. My part of town, we haven't had water from the city. This is the third day. So remember I told you that I went surfing, I had to wash my hair? That was a big endeavor with jugs of water. And so sometimes there's a lack of communication from what would we call that, utilities. The internet will go off for a few days. You don't know that that's going to happen. You didn't know if it's going to come back on. There's no warning. So there isn't that kind of accountability like there is in the States. That can be really challenging, especially when people aren't used to it. They're used to, you turn on the faucet, there's water, right?
Right.
Your internet is going to work. You pay the bill, it should work. So those things can be really challenging, and you really learn patience. It can be challenging sometimes not speaking the language perfectly. I can speak a lot of Spanish, but not perfectly. And if there's a group of people, I'm lost. I'm lost. So that's humbling and embarrassing and sometimes horrifying as an adult to not be able to communicate. I'm sure people get frustrated with that too. I just get embarrassed. What else is challenging?
Well, it
Oh,
makes you better,
shopping.
I guess, though.
Pardon?
It makes you better, quicker,
I
because
guess
you
one
don't have to put
hopes.
the
I
whistle
don't
in.
know. Shopping can be difficult because there's not all the same products you're used to. So about 3 years ago, I think Amazon started having shipping in Mexico, or they have Mexican plants. I don't know what it is. So now there's a lot more things you can buy, and these are things I think that people you don't even think twice about. You don't think twice about making an order on Amazon and it's there the next day, right? That's just normal. But then you go to another country and that kind of thing is like, oh no, this is going to take 4 days or a week or 2 weeks, and they don't have exactly what I want. So you learn to be flexible, or you'll just get so frustrated you won't want to be here. So there's
Or
something to
pretend
be,
you're in the 1980s.
yeah. Or maybe the 1950s. Sometimes it's 1950s. Oh, that's a good thing. There is definitely, and again, this is my experience here. Other cities that are more modern or have more, say, more young people or more cosmopolitan will have a different experience. But Mazatlan is a little provincial, and I think that's partly because of it's a working class town in general, right? All that fishing and that. And there were mines. There used to be mines in the mountains outside of town, so there was that community. So it's a little provincial. So sometimes kind of how you're looked at as a woman is like in the 1950s. You know, some of that is nice. They want to help you with your groceries in the house, or do things. The men will want to do things for you. And then other times it's really irritating because you're like, I can't do that. I don't. Like here's a funny little thing. In the parking lots of grocery stores or in the mall, there's two big malls here. There's older men, I would say they're probably retired, with little whistles, and they're helping you park. Okay? Have you ever had any? They're helping you park. They're blowing their whistle and they're waving you to go for. And I mean, okay, they're retired and they want a tip of a couple, 20 cents or something, or not. But and I try to see that as just a nice thing, but sometimes it's really irritating, right? This is me. I'm really telling you silly things, right? But sometimes
No, but it's true. It's those little things that, yeah, no,
it
it's
is.
great.
It's like, oh my gosh, I know how to park. I've been driving for 50 years or 40 years. I can pull into this parking lot. So you just learn to go, gracias, and go on with that. So it's all actually very funny. None of it is terrible. What would be a challenge? Patience. It's challenging to be patient, for a lot of these things. But in general, I'm really happy. I don't know. The challenges kind of go by the wayside because everything else is so nice. I
Well, I
can't
guess
find
there's just
heirloom
a slower
tomatoes.
pace of life. Sorry?
I can't find heirloom tomatoes. You know, that's a big issue for me. I'm Italian and I want real tomatoes. I mean, but that's like a, what do they call it? It's a champagne problem, you know? So,
Well, you can grow them yourself.
well, it's challenging. There's a challenge. It's challenging to grow in this climate because it's so hot and humid. It's so hot and humid, so there's just this host of other issues that come up for planting. So I try, but it's not very successful. But thank you for that positive spirit.
Nah, well, I wish I could bring some down for you, but
I
I
know you
can't really do
can't.
that.
No, no, no. When I
Um,
go to visit my kids, that's like the first thing I do. I go to whatever grocery store, or Whole Foods, or health food store, or farmers market, and just buy all these things that I can't find here. You know.
that's awesome. Well, that goes for any country, right?
That's
So,
true. That's true.
um, you can't find peanut butter outside the U.S., it seems. You
No,
can
you
only
can't find peanut butter here either.
I
No,
know.
unless it's full of sugar and corn syrup. You know, that's very challenging, actually. You know.
Yeah, so it is so it is those little things, and I know that people like hoard and like bring it down in their luggage and all
Yes,
that
they
kind of stuff.
do. Peanut butter's a tricky one, though,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. When I drove down this last time, I carefully thought, okay, what would I never bring in a suitcase? So I brought, like, I don't know what it is, a quart or liter of really good organic soy sauce and fish sauce. You know, things I would never want to spill in my suitcase, right? uh,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
So
So what is it like driving over the border? Is that a complicated process?
Um, there's different factors that make it more or less complicated. My car, which I bought in Mexico, has Mexican license plates. Sinaloa is the state, has Sinaloa license plates. And I'm a permanent resident. I have, my visa is like a green card kind of, I guess. So for me to go across the border back and forth was very easy. They, I had, I had my cats with me when I left last year, and I had health certificate from the vet and multiple copies of my passport and my immigration papers and all of that stuff, and kind of kept like putting them out the window, and they they didn't really look at anything. They kind of looked inside the car, patted the roof, and waved me through. So that's how it was both ways for me. Um, well, if people have been to Mexico, they've flown to Mexico, they'll remember when you enter Mexico and you get your suitcases, you get your luggage, you walk through a security thing and you push a big button and you either get a red light or a green light. If you get the red light, then they're going to inspect your suitcase, right? It's kind of a joke,
Right.
but that is what they do. Okay. So it's the same thing at the border when you're driving was it into the US? Yes. I can't remember actually, I'm sorry. If it was driving in to the US
Or
or
driving
coming
out.
back to Mexico, there's that same button in your car. And you drive through, it's like a cattle run thing, and it's scanning your car, I guess. I don't know. It all happens very fast. This is very complicated. It all happens very fast. You're in all these cars that are going towards the border, and all of a sudden you're being funneled into this thing. And there's a button. You push the button, and if it's green, you go, and if it's red, they inspect your car. I got green. They didn't look at my car. It was coming into Mexico. Yeah, driving through to the U.S. because I'm a U.S. citizen and I have a U.S. passport, so I went in that aisle. They didn't care about the cats. They didn't care about the health certificate. They also just waved me in. So I guess the bottom line is that it's easy. For me, it was easy because of the Sinaloa license plates and because I'm a U.S. citizen, right? You see that. But for people driving in from the U.S. or from Canada that have U.S. plates and are not Mexican residents, it's a whole other process with the car.
Right.
They don't want you to sell your car when you're in Mexico, so you have to pay. I think it's a $400 deposit on a credit card when you come in, and then you get that back when you leave. There's some paperwork to do at the border. That's the best I can tell you about that. So it's a little more complicated, but not insurmountable. People do it constantly.
So people who are thinking about moving to Mexico. What, I mean, it's a little bit difficult to say, but is there kind of an ideal kind of person that would be well suited for a Mazatlan?
Oh, that's
You know,
interesting. No, I think that,
because the Puerto Vallartas and the Playa del Carmen's and the Cabos, they get all the press, right? And most of the people are flocking there. And this is a much smaller town. I'm just wondering, is there, I don't know, people who just generally would rather have a quieter lifestyle,
well,
a
I wouldn't
slower
say
lifestyle?
that Mazatlan is quiet. It's a big, busy city, you know, as is Puerto Vallarta. I think one of the big differences is that outside of Puerto Vallarta, there are smaller pueblos, smaller towns that are, say, within an hour and 20 minutes from Vallarta, either north or south, so that you can live in a little tiny, really a quiet place, but you can still go into Vallarta to go to Costco or, do whatever you wanted to get to the airport and stuff like that. And Mazatlan is kind of on it's on the northern edge of the state, and then it's the Sonora Desert. So like there's kind of like nowhere else to go. When you're here, there's a couple of little towns you can go for half a day, but it's not like Vallarta. So I wouldn't say that this is a quieter place to be. It's definitely a big city, but it's more working class. It's not so. Some of those other towns like Zihuatanejo or Estapa and Puerto Vallarta, if I think is one of them too. The Mexican government identified them to be tourist destinations and years ago, and they poured money into them to build hotels, to expand the airport, to have services for that. So that was the focus of that hasn't happened here. Mazatlan is, like I said, it's kind of provincial, and it's kind of going in dribs and drabs trying to build itself up, so it's a little more funky. That's what I would say. It's a little funky. But what I suggest to people, because I do get asked that a lot, is again to do your own research. Go to those expat Facebook pages. I know Facebook isn't used as much in the States as it is in Mexico. In Mexico, not only expats use it, locals use it, businesses use it for networking. It's a very different user of Facebook. It's very common. So I would suggest doing that, looking at the towns you're interested in, and visiting. Visiting. Maybe, like me, you'll get to a place and you'll just feel like this is home and you'll fall in love, and then that's it. Or maybe you're going to go back and forth all over the country till you figure out what you want. Maybe you think you want the beach, but then in reality it's too hot and humid, and then you go inland to a mountain city like San Miguel Allende and you fall in love there. I think everybody has different factors for what they're looking for and what they need in their life. And the more you can figure those out, identify those, and then start looking for that.
That's great. Well, actually, as we start to wrap this up, I want you to talk about your book because I think that's a great segue.
That's
You interviewed 26 women
uh-huh.
who live in Mexico, all expats,
Yes. Yes.
and from various parts, right? Tell me a little bit about the book.
Okay. I always forget to mention it, right? So this time, here it is. It's called Why We Left, an Anthology of American Women Expats. And it is indeed, it's 27 women, I'm one of them. And it's more about how we all left. It's not so much why as how. And each of them, they're different ages, they're from different parts of the states. Some are married still, some have little kids, some are divorced, some are widowed. It's all different kinds of women from all over the states who moved to different parts of Mexico, and for different lengths of time. And each of them tell about their experience, what it was like to get ready to go, how they chose the place they went, what it was like getting there, and then what their lives have become. And I again, not to toot my own horn, but I think it's a very informative book, and it can be very valuable and very inspiring. And it's a really good read because I wrote my own essay and I edited the others, but I didn't change anybody's voice. So there's so many different types of people, so many different types of women, And chances are you'll identify with at least a few of them. The other thing I always say is that it's not just for women, it's not just for Americans. You know, when I got the idea for the book, I thought it'll just be expats anywhere. And then I was like, no, you got to narrow it down. And finally I got to, okay, I'm a woman, I'm American, I know this, I'll start here.
Right. But the experience are human experiences. So
Yes, very
anybody can
much
relate
so.
to them. So.
Very much so. What do you do with your pets? What do you do with all your stuff? How do I get a visa? What about my car? Should I bring my furniture? There's so many things, issues that everybody encounters, everybody has to deal with. And all of the women in the book did it differently.